On Central Illinois' news station, the Big 1520 AM and 92.3 FM WHOW. Stream live at DeWittDailyNews.com. They're also heard every hour on the station that's your easy choice, 95.9 FM WEZC. And to read the latest local news on your electronic device, including tablets, iPhones, and smartphones, go to DeWittDailyNews.com. DeWitt County's #1 source for local news is on the air, online, 24 hours a day.
Your friend in Central Illinois, WHOW.
It's the WHOW Morning Show. I'm your host today, Ben Hubbard. The WHOW Morning Show streams to Facebook and YouTube, brought to you by Peterson Insurance, your Pekin Insurance agent in Clinton. My guest on the Zoom in this segment is Candace Summers with the McLean County Museum of History. Candace, how you doing? We've had some nice weather recently. Have you guys been busy out there?
Oh yeah, and we had a tour last night, and it was the perfect night for it. And I said to everyone, "Be thankful this is not next week when it's hot."
Yeah. Oh yeah, definitely. Hey, there was some power outages in Bloomington over the last couple of weeks as well. How have you guys been holding up with all that?
I mean, it fortunately did not affect the museum, but plenty of other people lost their power for multiple days. So many trees down, and it was people always say, who are townies, they're like, "Oh, the Bloomington bubble that protects us from tornadoes." And this year, that bubble has burst.
Not so much.
No.
Yeah, we were just catching up on the air before, and I just moved up there, and the day before we moved in, we went to the house and there was no power, and we were like, "Oh no!" And then we came with the truck the next morning and there was power, and we were very blessed, very blessed. So
yeah. Well, it's been wild.
Yeah. It has been. It has been. Well, while we're getting started here, Candace, again with the McLean County Museum of History, we're talking about new exhibits at the museum. And, we're in the heat of the baseball season, and you guys have an exhibit that is just going right along with that.
Yeah, so we're super excited to be unveiling our next temporary exhibit, although it'll be up for 5 years. So I don't know how temporary that is, but it's a changing exhibit that will be up that's called More Than a Game, A Community History of Baseball and Softball. And baseball and softball have a really rich and vast history in Bloomington Normal. We've had baseball teams, since the pre-Civil War, and then of course softball coming towards, the 20th century. And we've had minor league teams. We've had players go on to the big leagues. We have a 19th century baseball player that still holds a record to this day, Charles Old Hoss Radburn, who pitched 59 winning games in one season in 1884.
Wow.
Though it helps, he was the only pitcher for the team for part of the season, but still a record.
Yeah.
One of the few 19th century baseball players in Cooperstown. And so we're going to be exploring not just, who the players were and the history of the teams, but what issues came up in the games of baseball and softball, because it very much mirrored what was going on nationally and politically, where you had the race divisions, where Black players weren't allowed to play with white players for quite a long time. Women breaking the barrier into softball, Title IX, things like that. And of course, lots of fun activities to kick off that exhibit when we open it on July 18th.
Mm-hmm. Are there any unique, artifacts or anything that you want to point out to people in this exhibit?
So one of my favorites is a baseball that's signed by Old Hoss and his team from what's considered to be the first completed World Series type event. And it's super cool that we have this baseball in our collection. People come all the time and they're like, "How did you get this?" And it's like, well, Old Hoss was from Bloomington, so of course that's why we have it. Once Old Hoss was no longer a baseball player, because he basically ruined his arm pitching, go figure. He ended up owning a bar in downtown Bloomington called Radburn's Place, which would have been just a couple blocks from the museum. And I'm assuming he had the ball there, and then descendants donated it to our historical society, which was founded in 1892. But we have, just a treasure trove of other artifacts, uniforms from players, gloves and hats and just all sorts of amazing things. It's going to be super cool to showcase these items, not just, minor league ball, but Illinois State, Illinois Wesleyan. Also the era when all these businesses had teams too. So like Beer Nuts had a team, State Farm had a team. Every business had a team and everybody played for them. Or, restaurants had teams. Susie's Cafe in downtown Bloomington, they had a softball team. So it's going to be really cool to highlight how everybody had a chance to play baseball and softball. It didn't matter who you were or what your ability was. Baseball and softball are your story and our story.
Yeah. Tell me a little bit about the research process. I know you said, getting artifacts from, people's descendants and families, but what was that process of getting the artifacts and finding that information like?
So usually researching for an exhibit of this type can take, 2 to 3 years just to do the research.
Mm-hmm.
Our guest curator for the exhibit, Bill Kemp, he's kind of like our local baseball guru. He's been writing about baseball for a long time in our Pantograph column that the museum has. So there's numerous stories that kind of peppered over the decades. We've been doing that column. And then he presents a program on one minor league one minor league called the 3I League, which a lot of people think 3I like the letter I, but it's like 3I like your eyeball. Mm-hmm. And that was the Illinois, Indiana, and Iowa Baseball League, where you had teams traveling throughout those states playing each other. And so that was a great foundation for this exhibit. And then we built on that, branching out into softball, learning about men's fast pitch softball, of course, women's softball, connected to the colleges. And so as you're doing the exhibit research, you start thinking about like what images are there and also what kind of artifacts do we have in our collection to support an exhibit of this type? Because it wouldn't be much of an exhibit if you didn't have any artifacts on display. So that's when you kind of go through and see what all you have, and then you narrow it down to what is safe to display, meaning that the artifact is in good enough condition to display. What would people find interesting? What would best enhance the story? One image that we have, it's the only known image of this team, of the Bloomington Colored Giants, and that was a minor league African-American baseball team in Bloomington. And there's one picture, it's faded, it's cracked. We don't know who the people are in it, but it's an important part of the story to talk about how Black baseball players were excluded from, the national scene and even in a lot of local places. Fortunately, in Central Illinois, we were luckier that Black baseball teams could actually play white baseball teams, where if you went further south, that was unheard of and not even practiced. Right. So it's a big process. And then it took about 2 years to actually create the exhibit. So you take the text and all the lists of artifacts, and then you go, okay, let's see what we need to narrow it down, because it's basically like a book of text. And nobody wants to read a book on a wall. And then you start plugging in the artifacts and images. And we worked with a design company called Edwards Creative out of the Quad Cities. And they're the ones who actually took our vision and our research and our images to make them wonderful displays. The installation actually starts next week. So we're super excited to see it all come to fruition, but it's not a short process. We're usually working on one exhibit and another one's in the back burner for the future.
Yeah, absolutely. I'd be remiss if I didn't ask, baseball and softball are such a cornerstone of American culture, right? How are you guys relating this back to America 250 this year, especially as we're just about a week away from July 4th here?
So yes, there's nothing more Americana than baseball, the national pastime. And so we're going to feature in the future programs related to it, the activities we have going on that day that we do the opening. But really, just having that exhibit opening in this salient year of America 250 is really a way to celebrate that piece of American history, highlighting a community history where people came together from all walks of life to play baseball, to play softball. I mean, there's nothing more American history than that.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. Absolutely. Well, we're just about due for a break, but before we do, I just want to ask, what other exhibits are popular? What are people liking out at the museum right now?
So we have our core exhibits, as always, on the first floor, our challenges, choices, and change. And that really breaks up the story of McLean County into the people and why they came here, what kind of work they did when they got here. Farming, of course, is a big part of that. And also, what are some of the issues that people struggled with?
Mm-hmm.
What are some of the conflicts? What are some of the resolutions? And so those are always really popular. We have our other temporary exhibit on display, the asbestos tragedy in McLean County,
Mm-hmm.
a deadly deception. And that one looks at the story of the UNARCO plant, which manufactured asbestos, and its true horrible impact on the community and the workers who worked there. And it's just a really powerful exhibit. And whenever people come out of it, they're just blown away. They had no idea that dark community history and how yet another company was abusing and lying to its employees and harming them in a deadly way.
Yeah, very interesting stuff. Very interesting. Again, that is Candace Summers with the McLean County Museum of History, my guest on the Zoom. More to come with her on the WHOW Morning Show coming up next.
WHOW.
Let's check the markets now on the RFD Radio Network. I'm Jim Taylor. Corn steady, beans and Chicago wheat lower. July corn down half a penny, 4.14. September corn unchanged, 4.24 and a quarter. And December corn up 3/4, 4.43 and 3/4. July beans down 4 and a quarter, 11.23 and a quarter. August beans down 4, 11.33. And November beans 11.53 and a half, down 3 and a half. July Chicago wheat 5.79 down 12. July KC wheat 6.11 and a quarter, down 9 and a quarter. July bean meal 3.05 even, down 3.20. July bean oil down 45 cents, 70.36. Livestock trade August feeders down $3, 370.32. June live cattle down 55 cents, 256.85. July lean hogs up 30 cents, $93 even. Energy market September Brent crude oil down 287, 72.63. RFD Radio Network.
Noah Atkinson here. As owner of Lincoln Printers and Sign Designs in Lincoln, I know small business is important to our communities. That's why I'm pleased to be the exclusive sponsor of the WHOW WEZC Lincoln Printers Business of the Month.
The Vault Community Center on Mr. Lincoln Square in Clinton is a nonprofit teen community center offering an environment for social, academic, and spiritual growth through opportunities and services. They'll receive a $200 gift certificate good at Lincoln Printers and Sign Designs for being our WHOW WEZC Lincoln Printers Business of the Month. Nominate a business you'd like featured by emailing us at WHOW@randyradio.com.
Congratulations to this local business for all they do for the community. And don't forget, for envelopes, wedding invitations, signs, banner wraps, and more, go to LincolnPrintersInc.com.
Your friend in Central Illinois. WHOW.
It's the WHOW Morning Show. I'm your host today, Ben Hubbard. The WHOW Morning Show streams to Facebook and YouTube, brought to you by Peterson Insurance, your Pekin Insurance agent in Clinton. We continue with my guest on the Zoom in this segment, Candace Summers with the McLean County Museum of History. And Candace, I just got so caught up in all the awesome exhibits that you guys have out at the museum that I forgot to ask you, just remind us the date that baseball exhibit opens and what's going on in the times.
So we'll kick off the opening of the baseball softball exhibit, More Than a Game, on July 18th at 9 a.m. So it's going to be a whole day jam-packed with activities. We'll start with our Take Me Out to the Ball Game baseball softball trivia at our farmers market that morning at 9 a.m. And then stick around or come back at 2 o'clock, where we will have our curator talk with guest curator Bill Kemp and Maria Mears, who is our director of curator of cultural interpretation. And then come back that evening, kicking off at 6 o'clock, where we're going to have some long games like home run ladder toss, dizzy bats, trivia, and more, leading up to the movies at the mural that we're partnering with the Bloomington Rotaries, that they'll be showing A League of Their Own. So it's a day jam-packed full of baseball, softball, fun and games, history, the whole shebang. You will not want to miss this day.
So cool. So very cool. Is there any cost or anything for community members?
It is all free, but we always appreciate donations. Donations are what help keep us going and help us be able to do fantastic activities like this. Also forgot to mention face painting on the lawn that night too before the movie. So baseball themed face painting, I'm in for it.
I love it. I love it. So much fun stuff going on. Anything we missed on that new baseball exhibit, its kickoff event, or anything like that?
If you want all the details about the exhibit and the day's activities, visit our website, makehistory.org, and you'll be able to find them all there.
Awesome. Awesome. Well, there's plenty more fun stuff coming up aside from that new baseball exhibit, especially with some ticketed tours that you guys are offering. This is really awesome. An opportunity to learn about some history outside the museum, right?
Yeah. So we have several more ticketed tours, walking tours, bus tours coming up this summer. So on July 16th, we will have our first Looking for Lincoln in Downtown Bloomington walking tour, where your guide, Norris Porter, who's our director of development, will be showing people where Lincoln walked in downtown Bloomington. Tell people about his friends and associates who helped get him nominated for President of the United States, share stories about his time and career here in Bloomington Normal. It'll be really a fascinating tour. Bloomington is probably the second most place where Lincoln spent the most time outside of his home in Springfield, and his roots and his legacy run deep in McLean County. Tickets for non-members are $15, and tickets for members of the museum are $12, and you can buy those online. We also have another downtown Bloomington architecture tour coming up on August 20th with yours truly and one of our excellent volunteers, Virgil Hovar, and that will explore the built environment of downtown Bloomington, where we'll talk about not just the architectural history of the buildings that are gone, also the history behind the buildings that are still standing. So many stories to share on that tour as we explore downtown Bloomington. Tickets aren't on sale for that one yet, but they will be soon, and you can get that information on our website. We also have our Get Your Farm Kicks on Route 66 Ag Bus Trip. Good friend of the museum, Don Meyer, is back again to help lead this tour, where we're not just going to learn ag history along Route 66, but because it's the centennial of Route 66, we'll also be learning about some Route 66 history along the way. So we're going to explore Bloomington to Towanda and all the way up north to Chenoa and Lexington, and pointing out a lot of the fascinating sites like rural schools, one-room schoolhouses, the Black Hawk War Stockade, historic sites in Lexington, including Patton's Cabin, the Van Dolen Castle, and then drive down memory lane, the Matthew T. Scott House in Chenoa, and so many places in between. Tickets are on sale for that. They're $50 for members of the museum and the McLean County Farm Bureau, or $55 for non-members. We only have 16 tickets left, so you don't want to miss this bus trip with Don and me along Route 66.
Yeah, absolutely. How often do you guys do these different ticketed tours?
It really depends. Last year we did 3 architecture tours last year because they were so popular. And this year, because we got feedback from visitors, they wanted more of this type. We're like, all right, we can do more. So we've had 1 architecture tour already. We've got the 3 Lincoln tours coming up starting on July 16th. We have our tour of Illinois State University's quad coming up on August 1st, where that will explore the history of the quad and explore issues of racial segregation, social movements on campus. You'll learn about the trees on campus, so much more, all focused on ISU. And that's a boxed lunch program on August 1st. And then, of course, the bus trips have always been popular. So every year we go, when are you going to do another bus trip? When are you going to? And we can't get them in every year, but we were able to get one in this year because it kind of hits both check marks, Route 66 Centennial and America 250, because this nation was founded on ag and farming. And without it, what would we be?
Absolutely. Absolutely. Couldn't agree more. Candace, I've got just a little under 2 minutes to go here with you. And I just want to bring up something that always sticks with me when we do interviews with you guys. And that is the huge focus on art that you guys have, and not just art history, but current and local artists in Bloomington. And you guys have an event with a big mural coming up, right? For the more perfect union. I'm sorry. Well, tell me a little bit more about this event. Sorry about that.
Yeah, so we worked with the McLean County Art Center and did a community art exhibit.
Mm-hmm.
And what that was is it's based around America 250, so themes of America, how people view the nation, independence, freedom, like their interpretation of these core building blocks of our democracy. And we encourage people of all ages, school kids, adults, and all types of art media, not just limited to painting or photography. So there's all different kinds of art on display. And we got 50 submissions.
Wow.
And so they're all on display at the McLean County Art Center, which is in downtown Bloomington. The exhibit will be up through the summer, and we really encourage people to come and see A More Perfect Union, to really explore how each of us interprets our society, our democracy, our government, the founding principles of this nation, how those views
Candace, I'm so
differ.
sorry. I got to cut you off there. We're just about out of time. Really quick, where do people go to keep up with the McLean County Museum of History?
Go to our social media on Facebook or Instagram, or our website, makehistory.org.
Again, that's Candace Summers with the McLean County Museum of History.
WHOW.
The Big 1520.